So, we're coming to the final keynote. First of all, Sana, thank you so much. The final speaker came from Israel just for this presentation. I would say so, but she came also for vacation. She is the CEO and founder of Lichi Trasnlations. I'm pretty sure you received also some of the bags with her business card and with her Lichi smell. And she was going to talk about, similar with what Lukas Tink did, but she was going to talk also about human versus machines. So give a round of applause to Mikhal Heffer.
Wow, hello everybody. Gosh, nice to be here. So I am Mikhal Heffer, and I'm the manager of Lichi Translations, translation agency based in Israel. So before I'm here on vacation, and this is going to be the highlight of my stay. Armin, thank you very much for inviting me to Innovation Digital Prague in this amazing Congress Center. And I'd like to start with a little story, okay? I was walking around Prague, and last week I met Hank. Hank is a BNI member here in Prague. He has a chocolate factory. What is the name of his chocolate factory? Chocotopia. Great, Chocotopia. And he has a really lovely store in the middle of the old city of Prague. Now, I met him last week in a BNI meeting, as I said, and he told me, listen, I've prepared some material in Hebrew because I know that there are some tourists coming from Israel, and I'd like to show them how to make chocolate in Hebrew. So first of all, I said, wow, that's fantastic. This is an entrepreneur that identified that having material in other languages is a great asset. Because I'll tell you, we are Israelis, and this might be, we have here an international audience. I don't know how you feel about it. But when you have material in your own language, it's kind of really appealing because, oh my gosh, this business owner thought about me and would like me to feel comfortable in my comfort zone, mind you, in an activity that I'm going to take part in. So I went with my husband and daughter. We went to this lovely chocolate factory, and we got the instructions of how to make chocolate in Hebrew. Now, he told me in advance that how did he translate it? Using Google Translate. So he used machine translation for his document. So what did I see here? This is the material in Hebrew, and here is the material in English, how to prepare Belgian pralines, or how to make chocolate. So first thing that comes out is that I didn't understand what they're trying to say. He used the word screwdriver instead of a spatula. Some of the content was completely not clear. Some was kind of clear, but I didn't exactly know what he meant. And some was good. So now, he told me in advance that that's what he used, so I wasn't surprised. Another thing that was really also important, which is very basic, is that Hebrew is right to left. And when it's left to right, sometimes it can be really, really hard to understand and to read. So using machine translation is great, but what was missing here was the human touch. And we're talking about humans versus machines. This is going to be the topic of my little presentation here because it's important. The human touch is really, really important. So I'm Mikhal Heffer. I'm the manager of Lichi Translations. I said we're based in Israel. And we offer multilingual translation services. That is, we offer translation services in all languages, any language to any language. So it could be Czech and Chinese and Russian and German, simply any language that you can think about, any language pairs. So I would like to continue with another little story. And I would like to tell you about my father-in-law, Chumi. He had a little store, a photo store in the center of Tel Aviv. And he used to develop pictures. Now, I don't know if any of you are young enough to know that once upon a time, we had film. And we used to extract the film out. We used to send it to the lab, and you'd get it after so-and-so days. Now, he opened a store in the 60s. In the 80s was the first revolution, that it didn't take days, it took 24 hours. Now, he was kind of an elderly guy in the 80s, and he said, oh, this might be a passing whim or fashion, and I'm just going to keep on going as I did. Then the technology became a 1-hour technology, and he said to himself, well, I don't have room in my little store to put these big machines like the other companies are doing, so I'll just let go and see what happens. Eventually, when the digital camera came, his store kind of really had no clients walking in, but he did use that space to invite his friends for coffee. It was really nicely located in the middle of Tel Aviv. So Humi didn't mind missing out on the revolution that happened in the printing industry, but we are now in the midst of a revolution in the translation industry. Now, most of you know of Google Translate, right? And we know what machine translation is all about. And this is something we can simply not ignore. So I would say, if you are in an evolving market, first thing is to make sure you know the trends and the changes in your industry. Now, what is machine translation? Machine translation is moving text from inputting text in one language and having it come out in a different language. Now, until not too long ago, you used to find a lot of embarrassing mistakes in the machine translation, and you'd get good jokes for your WhatsApp group and publish them. But as we are advancing, translation is getting better and better and better. And especially if you have really common language pairs, English, French, or English-Spanish, anything got to do with English. By the way, I think this translation was performed from Czech into Hebrew through Google, and obviously this is quite a difficult language combination, so I don't expect it. If they would have used the English, it would have been a bit better. Now, what kind of tools are available in the translation industry? So we have Google Translate, but that's not the only available tool. There are more professional engines. There's DeepL, there is Amazon, there is Microsoft, and they are, and some of them are free and some of them are paid. We are using the paid services as the quality is better. And what is really crucial about it is to see what kind of translation you need. Because let's think about, there's a massive amount of text in the world, especially in the digital world. Just think how much content we're uploading on a daily basis. So some content would be great just for a machine, anything that you don't really need to know the next day. Let's say the results of this German football team, right? They might have games every day, so they might not need, and if they want to they want audiences in other parts of the world to know the results, they could just do a quick press of the button, push of the button, and they would have the results in the other languages. Some texts are much harder, okay? And yet you have to be really, really careful. Now, I'd say there are not enough translators to translate everything. By the time you'd finish translating, the information might not be relevant anymore. So it's great that you have these tools. So you have to really think, are you using the tool as it is, or do you need to edit it? And I think this is the really, really important part about using the technology. The tool will not be enough for most of your needs. If you need a contract that you want to sign, if you need a content in your website and you want it to be of high quality, of course you can have Google Translate quality. Is that the reputation you'd like to have for your business? So maybe you'd say it is, okay? Maybe it is good enough for you. But for many times, if you really want to be professional, you should have it reviewed and fixed. So let's say if going forward, if we want to work on a global market, I would like to think, what would you need to do if you want to work globally? By the way, I mean, we're an international audience, so I wanted to check if you're working locally or globally. So if anybody's working globally, I'd be happy to see that if you raise your hands. Okay, so working globally, good, it's great to see an audience like that. So if you work globally, I would like to suggest a few topics. One is to check what is your target audience and what country do you want to be working? Are you going to be, I assume, let's talk about English. Is it good enough for you to have your material only in English? Or do you want it to be in other languages? Is this important for you? Now, working locally is also another option, okay? Because working locally, are you approaching only the local language? Let's say if we're in Czech, is your audience only Czech-speaking? Or would you be someone in the tourist industry, such as Hank's Chocolate Company, that wants to reach out to tourists from other countries? So that's one thing. Check your audience, okay, and where you want to go. The second tip that I'd like to say is, how are you going to go there? What are you going to do when you want to reach a global market? Are you going to attend conferences, like a conference like this? Are you going to do networking? Are you going to do door-to-door, knock-knock, and check if anyone needs your services? Will you be digital? Are you going to have a website? Or are you going to do online events? So check your marketing strategy. Then think about, what do you need to become global? What kind of material do you need to support you while you're working in a different country or in a different language? As I said, would you want your website in a couple of languages? How about, do you need contracts to sign with your, anyone working with you? Do you need maybe a user manual? Think about Skoda, okay? They're selling all over the world. Do they need the car user manual in other languages? So, and then think about, okay, so let's say you've decided to translate. Pilsner, I understand the beer, they work in 50 languages. So, in 50 countries. Are they all in English, or do they have their material in other languages? Now, who's going to translate for you? That's another thing. Will you do it your own, on yourself? Because some people speak great, a second language is great level, and you can do it on yourself, on your own. Do you have the time for that? Would you have someone from your office or your staff to translate for you? Is this a good way to invest their time in translating? Maybe they would be good for editing and reviewing. Would you have a freelancer translator, a professional translator? Or would you want to work with an agency? There are different types of ways of translating your material. Would you use the machine, or would you use a human translator? Some texts, sometimes you would say, okay, I'll just have I need a quick turnaround, and I want to do it really fast. By the way, using machine translation is very cost-effective, okay? You can do it really cheap, and it goes really, really fast. And there's a lot of benefits for people to use machine translation, plus the post-editing, which is something that is really important to emphasize, because to edit the material is crucial. So if I'm talking about the role of the translator in this revolution, it's not only to, it's not that I'm going to dismiss all my translators and we don't have to work anymore. They will have to edit and review, and they'll have to change the focus of their job. And then, so we were saying, how are you going to translate it if you're using machine translation or human translation? Now, I'd like to give a few tips about how I would like recommendations on how you could run your next translation project. So, first of all, choose a native speaker. A native speaker knows the ins and outs of a language. They know how to express themselves in the language, something that it's not always true to someone that is knows a language good, but it's not his native tongue. Another thing is to take someone that really understands the industry. So for instance, let's say we're translating the chocolate instructions. It would be nice, someone who likes chocolate and knows how to use, has done that before. But obviously there are many more terms that are much harder. If you have a contract, you need legal content. If you have a user manual, you need technical content. So that would be really important. I would suggest to take a professional. It's someone who knows how to do the job. It's not easy to translate, and I would always suggest that you do the review. If, let's say, you know the language, or you have someone from your team that knows the language, maybe your agent in some other country that you're working with, have them review the material, because a translator comes from the industry, will know how to translate, but they might not be the most specific person that knows the most in the terminology that's related to the translation. And finally, I'd also like to suggest, ask for a sample. This is a really good way to know that you have, that the quality is suitable for you, and that the translation is, that the outcome of the translation is according to what you would be interested to receive at the end. So, human versus machine, it's, I think you'll have to use machine at a certain point. Our industry is really using that. We at Lichi Translation have implemented different technological tools. We have a workflow that already includes the machine within. So I upload the text to our translation platform. I have a technology that is called translation memory, which whenever I do a translation, I store the previous translation that I've done. Just imagine, all rights reserved. How many times would this sentence appear in a document? But once I've translated it the first time, I can just extract it, and it reappears every time I use that text. So the first thing is we extract all the terminology and all the translations we've done. Then we would have an option to apply machine translation on the remaining text, and then we would edit it. One word about a new feature that's a total revolution, and that's ChatGPT. You cannot ignore it. How is that influencing the translation industry? Well, I'm not quite sure yet. I've tried it out, and it's not as good as the professional engines, Google, Amazon, DeepL, the other engines, but it's a tool that we are introducing and kind of playing around with. It's good, for instance, to rephrase, shorten, change feminine sentence into a male sentence, or check punctuation. So it's definitely something that we should consider. So that's my presentation. I'd like to thank Armin for inviting me here. It's been great to come to Prague and attend this amazing event. And I'm Mikhal, Heffer, manager of Lichi Translations. And it's lovely to be here. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if there are any questions.
It was a lovely presentation. Again, a lot of insights. And I want to give my 5 cents also to the notion. When you localize your profile in LinkedIn, you have an option actually to put the profile in different languages. One thing is you can send message to the local people based on their language that they specified in the profile. This is one thing. And again, what I did, what you said, I Google translated, send it to native speaker friends to validate and to give me a feedback. The other thing, what you can use for LinkedIn, again, 5 cents from Notion, is you can send different messages for different languages. So you can differentiate. So localized profile can send different message with different meanings. So not directly translating, but customizing the message. So this is my comment to you. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you for the lovely presentation. And what that sparked for me is I recently got into Russian literature, Dostoevsky specifically, that I started reading. And when I go through the Kindle store, I see so many different versions of translations, and I don't really know which one to choose. So do you have any advice or tips into figuring out which translation versions to choose, especially regarding literature?
So you mean you would like to translate, to read something in a language, obviously, that you understand? Well, the thing is with translation, it's not a science, and every linguist can use a different way of translating, right? Because they can use an airplane or plane or car, a vehicle. There's an endless amount of ways of translating a certain document. I would suggest you just go and see what you feel that is best for you and, is easier for you to read, feels comfortable. Sometimes you can start reading something and say, this is a shitty translation, I can't relate to it. Or sometimes you flow into the text and you forgot that it's been translated. So I would try it out for a little bit because you never know, you might, what did you say, Dostoevsky, So you might be the first few pages are great and then, you never know what's going to happen at the end of the story and if it's accurate or not. So just go with what you feel that is easy for you to read.
Thank you.
Any more questions? So
great. Thank you very much. Thank you.